يجب علينا أن ندافع عن أرضنا. أتت إلينا ونحن نوليها دبرنا ونقول لها لا، نحن نتنازل عن أرضنا، نتنازل عن مالنا، نتنازل عن ديننا في سبيل تصفق لنا أمريكا وتقول بأن هذا شعب ديمقراطي. هذا لا يرضاه عقل، لا يرضاه عقل.
Man, that is so fascinating. That's something.
That was a look at the Vice special report, Fighting ISIS. And joining us now, correspondent and producer for the Emmy-winning series Vice on HBO and the host of this Vice special report, Ben Anderson. Also with us, the news and finance anchor at Yahoo, Bianca Golodriga. Good to have you both on board.
Ben, it's a fascinating looking at the state of mind of an ISIS fighter.
Oh, my God.
And at the end of the interview, one of the more compelling parts of the entire interview, as you were describing it to us.
I said, just as a throwaway question, what would you do if you weren't captured and you know, you captured me? And he said, I would kill you without hesitation. And then got up and shook my hand and said, I wish we had more time to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And I'll have a donut.
Yeah, yeah. So what was your takeaway from this interview, in the mindset of an ISIS fighter?
We interviewed 3 of them. The first 2 said, look, life under the Maliki government for non-Shiites was hell. So when ISIS came along, they said, we'll offer you security, we'll offer you a chance for revenge. Right. So we joined. And we had Christians told us the same thing, that life was so bad in Iraq that when ISIS first came along, they welcomed them. The third guy, he said, I joined because we're going to take over the world. And he was completely convinced that's what's going to happen.
But the first 2, though, were not rational, but you could attach their logic to it as far as being angry at perceived slights or slights from the West.
And they all said that they'd been captured and tortured many times by the Maliki government. The basic services were denied, the non-Shiite communities. And, you know, the former ambassador to Iraq told us the exact same thing, told us that is what life was like in Iraq for non-Shiites.
Yeah.
As you know, we have a presidential campaign going on in this country, and a couple of the people who have run for president, their way of dealing with ISIS. One, Ted Cruz, we're going to carpet bomb ISIS. Sarah Palin the other day stands up and says we're going to kick ISIS's ass when we get elected. After speaking to him and others, and I know you've been over there multiple times, do you think there's a way that you can kill a belief, an ideology, with bombs and bullets?
No, I mean, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are still raging, and we seem to have forgotten that approach doesn't work. You know, there are no simple solutions to a problem like this, and some of the solutions I'm hearing being put forward are astounding. I mean, you know, I know 15-year-olds who could come up with a smarter solution.
And of course, Gates was here last week.
Yeah,
pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And of course, there are other foreign players with their interest in the region as well, Russia being one of them. I know that you interviewed Russian Foreign Minister Dmitry Medvedev, and he weighed in on the issue as well. What did he have to say?
I mean, you know, Russia's seeing this as a way to come in from the cold because it was so ostracized. It's seeing it as a way to snub Obama and America and step in and do what you know, we, the UK and US have been unable to do. But they're also concerned that ISIS and al-Nusra have 10, 15,000 fighters from Chechnya and Dagestan who may come back to Russia one day. So they're facing the same fear that we're facing.
I should say Prime Minister, not Foreign Minister. But yeah, they're facing it as well.
Actually, a larger fear within Russia. I mean, given their Muslim population.
And Russia is trying the exact policies you described earlier. They've hit 20 hospitals so far. They've killed over 1,000 civilians. I'm fairly sure that's not going to work, just like it didn't work for the Russians in Afghanistan.
What else did you learn in this interview, just sort of take away, beyond the matter-of-fact approach to death and destruction and even, you know, murder and right in your face? What did you take away that you learned about the minds of these people? The
conditions that led to them seeing ISIS as attractive still exist in Iraq. So even if ISIS are defeated, and that's a very big if, all of the conditions that led to their rise...
Now, when you talk about the conditions, you're talking about an Iranian-backed Shia government in Baghdad?
Yeah, I mean, the country is effectively divided into 3. The government-controlled section is run by Shiite militias, controlled by an Iranian general. The Kurdistan is controlled by Kurds who are fighting for their own state, not for...
And of course, the Sunnis third. So let me ask you this: if let's just say moving forward, and I know you have no crystal ball here any more than anybody else, but the first 2 that you talked to that actually attached it to facts that were actually on the ground, not that we're a caliphate that's going to take over the whole world. Is there possibly a political solution if you do what Joe Biden was talking about doing in 2002, which is you split Iraq up, an unnatural country created by the West, into 3 areas, and you actually have a legitimate Sunni government that actually is not being run out of Tehran through Baghdad?
Some people have said that's already happened. It's already 3 separate states. But having that as 3 legitimate states with their own governments, one of which won't be ISIS, that's a very long-term project.
We have another clip from Vice Special Report, Fighting ISIS. Take a look.
كان الإسلام شبه النبتة التي قطع عنها الماء، ذبلت. فبقدوم أمريكا إلى العراق واحتلال العراق كأنما هي سقت هذه النبتة ماء. فدخلت أمريكا، وبوجود أمريكا تكونت جماعات مسلحة، وبقدوم أمريكا لم يهنأ شخص بالراحة بتاتا. مداهمات، ظلم، اعتقال، اغتصاب. أمريكا من العراق وإذا بدولة إسلامية كاملة متكونة.
The West has tried to come up with propaganda devices to prevent young people from France, England, Western Europe from being attracted to ISIS. We've been incredibly lame in our attempts to do this. Why would he belong with ISIS? What could be done in your mind? Do you think there is anything we could do to come up with some device, propaganda devices, to sort of slow this down?
We're failing miserably at coming up with a counter message. Young Muslims around the world are doing a very good job and actually ridiculing ISIS. You'll appreciate that. Baghdadi put out a message to all Muslims worldwide saying, rise up in your own country and kill the infidels. And thousands of responses came back ridiculing him. One of them said, sorry mate, it's United versus Chelsea Monday. I can't make it. You know, that's going to make more progress than anything we'll ever do.
Yeah, that is so funny. When you look at the clip, of course, we're all thinking about the tragedy of 2002 and 2003 and the United States blunders that we made as a country going into Iraq. But you talked about life under Maliki. And I'm just wondering whether we look back 30 years from now and see George W. Bush, of course, one of the causes going in there, one of the chief causes going in there, maybe America leaving too early being another. But also something that David Ignatius said, told me one time, that there was an election, we had a chance to get Maliki out of there, and for some reason the United States clung desperately to Maliki. Talking to these fighters, is it Maliki and the conditions under Maliki that we may look back and see as one of our bigger mistakes in the later period in Iraq?
And as you said, allowing Maliki to have a second term, despite his awful sectarian record, I think that will be one of the biggest mistakes of the entire war.
And is that the resentment against, obviously against the West first, but what was a triggering point was life under Maliki in 08, 9, 10?
Yeah, if you were a Kurd, a Yazidi, a Christian, a Sunni in Iraq, life under Maliki was miserable. And that's what allowed ISIS to spread so quickly and so easily.
Yeah.
Vice Special Report, Fighting ISIS, airs on HBO this coming Sunday, January 31st.